And we're back with Vice President Dick Cheney. In My Time is the title of his memoir. Mr. Vice President, I have a procedure. I ask people before interviewing people such as yourself, is there anything you'd like to hear Vice President Cheney answer? And it's amazing with you. I've asked people from all walks of life, every sphere of circle friends I have. And without question, the most frequently asked thing I was asked to ask you was, how did you deal, being the person that you are, investing your life for the goodness of this country, how did you deal the last 8 years of your service being called a demon, a devil, Darth Vader, the most divisive? People want to understand what that's like from a personal standpoint and how you dealt with it and stayed focused on your job. How did it affect you?
Well, if you've been around as long as I had, Rush, by the time I got to be vice president, I certainly expected, especially if I did anything controversial, that I was going to be the subject of a certain amount of criticism and abuse. It goes with the turf. You can't let it get to you. If you haven't got a thick enough hide to take some of those slings and arrows and to keep on doing your job, then you're probably in the wrong job. It's part of it. Frankly, some of the comedians at night was pretty good. Pretty funny, that is. I got as big a laugh out of it as anybody. I remember Darrell Hammond on Saturday Night Live portraying me as a one-man Afghani wrecking crew living in a cave outside Kandahar, Afghanistan. I had in my chest a built-in machine that made me invisible to radar and brewed coffee.
Again, another compliment.
And another compliment, that's right. But you really had to take it with a grain of salt. It wasn't always personal. Sometimes it was. But it goes with the turf.
Weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. What was your reaction? Every intelligence service around the world, including our own, said that there was little doubt Saddam Hussein was working on a serious weapons of mass destruction program, perhaps even nuclear. After the invasion, for all intents and purposes, nothing was found. What was your reaction?
Well, what I recall from the report that was done, you may remember we had an Iraq survey group that went in and looked at everything, and they're the ones that did not find any stockpiles. Obviously, that had been falsely reported. On the other hand, what they did find was that Saddam had retained the capability to go back into production on relatively short notice. He had the raw materials and the technology and the people to be able to resume his program as soon as sanctions were lifted and the inspectors disappeared from the scene. Mr. Kay, who in fact headed up that search, said after he'd finished his work with the survey group that he was more concerned about the threat Saddam represented than he had been when he thought he actually had stockpiles. In other words, very concerned that Saddam was potentially somebody who would quickly get back into the business of producing WMD. And again, he's one of the few people who not only had produced it in the past, he'd also used it in the past. So it was to say that there was no WMD. That's sort of the conventional wisdom that's out there. But what there were no stockpiles. But there clearly was the capacity as well as supposedly the intention to go back into that business on short notice.
You're out of politics now. You're an observer. You finished the book. You're doing your interview. What is your assessment of the country? What's your assessment of the future?
Well, I'm as pro-American as I've ever been. I've got 7 grandkids. I hope that they'll take away from my own experience willingness on their part to get involved in our political system and be a part of the history that's bound to be made in the decades ahead. I'm worried. I think we've got some significant problems right now. You talk about them a lot on your show, and legitimately so. I think we've got to be very concerned still about the prospects of a terrorist attack on the United States with something deadlier than airline tickets and box cutters. I think the debt problem we've got is horrendous and badly needs to be resolved. But I'm also worried about such things as the fact that this year's campaign coming up, everybody's focusing on jobs and the economy, and it's very important to do. But I'm worried that the price for that will be paid by drastic cuts in the defense budget, and that'd be a big mistake. I think we've got to find ways to make certain we don't decimate our military capabilities as we try to bring our domestic spending under control.
We've got about a minute and a half here. The current Republican presidential field, anything surprise you about it?
Well, I haven't signed on with anybody yet at this stage. I expect in the final analysis I will support the Republican candidate, but
I hope so.
To date, I can't imagine I'm confident I won't support President Obama. I obviously have got fundamental. I think we'll have to see what develops there over the course of the next few months, and hopefully we'll have a good, strong candidate emerge from that primary process.
I know you're really busy today. This is my second opportunity to talk to you, and folks, I want to tell you the newsletter interview takes an entirely different tack than this one. It's a little bit more... well, I won't describe it. Just read it when you get to the newsletter. But I wanted to thank you, Mr. Vice President, for giving me both opportunities to talk to you and for giving me the chance to embarrass you here. I do think you're a great man, and I think that this book of yours, no matter what page you open that, congratulations, it's great, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about it, sir.
Well, thank you, Rush. You do great work, and I'm a huge fan, as you know, and I'm honored that you take time out of your show to chat about it.
Anytime. Vice President Dick Cheney, and the title of the book is In My Time. And we'll be back right after this.